First contact and forbidden attraction. The red warning lights bathed the command center of New Haven Colony in an eerie glow. Commander Elena Torres stood before the massive view screen, watching 12 alien vessels descend through the atmosphere. Like falling stars, her dark hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, but loose strands framed her face as she studied the approaching threat. At 32, Elena had never expected to face an alien invasion, but she had trained for this moment. Her entire military career. Distance? She asked, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. 15,000 meters and closing, reported Lieutenant Marcus Chun from his station. Their ships are unlike anything in our databases, Commander. The energy signatures are off the charts. Elena nodded grimly. New Haven was humanity's newest colony, home to 50,000 civilians who had traveled here seeking a better life. The planet's rich mineral deposits and fertile soil had made it seem like paradise. Now it might become their tomb. The lead alien ship was magnificent and terrifying. Its sleek design reminded Elena of a predatory bird, all curves and angles. That seemed to flow like liquid metal. Blue energy pulsed along its hull in patterns that looked almost like breathing. As it settled onto the landing field outside the colony's main city, Elena felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. Open a channel, she ordered. The view screen flickered, and suddenly Elena found herself looking at an alien unlike anything she had imagined. The being was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the ship's lighting. His features were sharp and angular, almost sculptural, with large eyes that held an intelligence that made Elena's breath catch. Most surprising. Of all, when he spoke, his voice was deep and melodious. I am Admiral Kethver of the Zarian Dominion, he said, his words translated by their universal communication system. You will evacuate this world immediately. This system has been claimed by our empire. Elena stepped forward, her uniform crisp despite the long hours of preparation. I am Commander Elena Torres of the New Haven Colonial Defense Force. This world is under the protection of the Human Alliance. We will not abandon our people. Kethver studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Elena had expected threats, demands, perhaps even immediate violence. Instead, she saw something that looked almost like curiosity in his alien. Features. Your species is new to this region of space, he said finally. Perhaps you do not understand the power you face. The Zarian Dominion has conquered 100 worlds. We have weapons that could reduce your colony to ash in minutes. And then why haven't you used them? Elena asked, meeting his gaze directly. For the first time, Kethver hesitated. In that moment of silence, Elena saw something she hadn't expected doubt. This alien commander was not the mindless conqueror she had prepared to face. There was intelligence there, and perhaps even conscience. Because, Kethver said slowly, I have seen your world. Your people tend gardens. They build schools for their children. They create art. He paused, his large eyes never leaving hers. It would be ... wasteful to destroy such things needlessly. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of equipment. Elena's officers exchanged glances, unsure of how to interpret this unexpected turn in the conversation. Elena herself felt a strange flutter in her chest. Was this alien commander actually showing mercy? What do you propose? She asked carefully. Demonstration, Kethver replied. My forces will establish a perimeter around your main city. You have 72 hours to evacuate your population. After that, we will take control of the planet. Any who remain will be considered hostile. Elena's mind raced. 72 hours was impossible. They could never evacuate 50,000 people in that time, but it was more than she had expected. I need to speak with my superiors, she said. You have 6 hours, Kethver responded. Then we will speak again. The transmission ended, leaving Elena staring at the dark screen. Around her, the command center erupted in discussions and urgent communications, but Elena barely heard them. She was thinking about the alien's eyes, The way he had looked at their world with something approaching appreciation rather than conquest. 6 hours later, Elena stood in the same spot, but everything had changed. The alien ships had deployed around the city, exactly as Kethvar had promised, but they had made no aggressive moves. Instead, they seemed to be waiting, watching. The promised reinforcements from the human alliance were still days away. Far. Too late to help. When the communication channel opened again, Elena was ready. Commander Torres, Kethvar's voice was softer now, less formal. Have you made your decision? I have a counter-proposal, Elena said, her heart pounding. A meeting, face to face. Just the two of us. Kethvar's expression shifted to something. Elena couldn't quite read. That is ... unusual. Why would you suggest such a thing? Because I think you're not like the others, Elena said, honestly. I think you don't want to destroy us any more than we want to be destroyed. Maybe we can find another way. The silence stretched between them. Elena could feel her officers watching her, could hear the whispered conversations questioning her sanity. But she held Kethvar's gaze through the screen, willing him to understand what she was offering, not surrender, but something else entirely. There is a clearing 2 kilometers north of your city, Kethvar said finally. Sunrise tomorrow. Come. Alone. Agreed, Elena replied without hesitation. The next morning, Elena walked through the forest that surrounded New Haven. The alien sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows through the trees. She had left her weapon behind, a gesture of trust she hoped Kethvar would understand. When she reached the clearing, she found him already waiting in person. Kethvar was even more imposing than he had appeared on screen. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his blue skin pale in the morning light. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform, but it was elegant rather than intimidating, with flowing lines that seemed to move with his body. You came, he said, and Elena heard surprise in his voice. I keep my promises, she replied, stopping a few meters away from him. They stood in silence for a moment. 2 beings from different worlds studying each other in the growing light. Elena noticed that Kethvar's large eyes were not entirely alien. They held expressions she recognized, emotions she understood. Tell me about your world, Elena said, suddenly. Kethvar blinked, clearly not expecting the question. My world? Your home. What is it like? Kethvar was quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. Zarian Prime is beautiful, he said finally. We have cities that float above crystalline seas, gardens that exist in harmony with technology, art that changes with the phases of our twin moons. His voice grew softer. It was not always an empire. Once, we were explorers, seeking knowledge and beauty throughout the galaxy. What changed? Elena asked gently. Fear, Kethvar said simply. We encountered species that sought to destroy us. We learned that in this galaxy, you must conquer or be conquered. There is no middle ground. Elena stepped closer, noting how Kethvar's eyes followed her movement. There could be, she said. There should be. Your species is young, Kethvar replied, but his tone was not condescending. You have not learned the hard truths of survival. Among the stars. Maybe we don't have to, Elena said. Maybe there's another way? Kethvar studied her face, and Elena felt a strange warmth spreading through her chest. There was something in his expression, something that made her heart beat faster. You are different from what I expected, he said. So are you? Elena replied softly. They talked for hours, sitting on a fallen log as the sun climbed higher. Kethvar told her about Zarian culture, their love of art and music, their deep connection to the natural world. Elena shared stories of human creativity, their determination to build better lives for their children, their endless curiosity about the universe. Your people paint pictures of worlds they have never seen, Kethvar said, wonder in his voice. They write stories about creatures that exist only in their imagination. This is ... remarkable. We call it hope, Elena said. We dream of what could be, not just what is. Kethvar turned to look at her, and Elena felt her breath catch. There was something in his eyes, something that made her skin tingle with awareness. I have never met anyone like you, Elena Torres. The use of her first name sent a shiver through her. What happens now? She asked. I do not know, Kethfer admitted. My orders are clear. I am to take this world for the Dominion, but... He paused, his gaze intense. I find myself reluctant to carry out these orders. Because of the colonists? Elena asked. Because of you, Kethfer said quietly. The admission hung between them like a physical presence. Elena felt her heart racing, her skin flushed with heat. This was impossible, insane, dangerous, and yet she couldn't deny what she was feeling. Kethfer, she whispered. I know, he said, his voice rough. I know this is madness. You are human, I am Zarian. We're supposed to be enemies. Are we? Elena asked, moving closer to him. Kethfer's hand rose as if to touch her face, then stopped inches away. My people would consider this treason. Yours would call it collaboration with the enemy. I don't care, Elena said, surprised by her own boldness. I wish ... double quotes Kethfer began, then stopped himself. What? What do you wish? Kethfer's eyes met hers, and Elena saw longing there, deep and painful. I wish we could marry human, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I wish our peoples were not enemies. I wish we could have met under different circumstances. In a different time, Elena's heart nearly stopped. The admission was so raw, so honest, that it took her breath away. So do I, she whispered back. They sat in silence, the weight of impossible desire hanging between them. Elena could feel the warmth radiating from Kethfer's body, could smell his alien scent, something like ozone and starlight. She had never wanted anything more than to close the distance between them, to feel his skin against hers. This is dangerous, Kethfer said, but he made no move to pull away. I know, Elena replied. If we're discovered ... I know. Kethfer's hand finally moved, his fingers touching her cheek with incredible gentleness. His skin was warm and soft, not alien at all. Elena leaned to the touch, her eyes closing. Elena, he said her name like a prayer. Yes? I will find a way to spare your people. Somehow, I will find a way. Elena opened her eyes to find him staring at her with an intensity that made her heart race. And after that? I do not know, Kethfer admitted. But I cannot bring myself to destroy the world that created you. They parted that day with nothing resolved, but everything changed. Over the following weeks, they met in secret, their conversations growing more intimate, their connection deepening. Elena learned that Kethfer was a poet as well as a warrior, that he composed verses about the beauty of distant stars. Kethfer discovered that Elena had wanted to be a teacher before joining the military, that she still carried children's drawings in her pocket. Their relationship was impossible, forbidden, dangerous, and it was the most real thing either of them had ever experienced. But secrets have a way of being discovered. And when they were finally caught by one of Kethfer's own officers during a clandestine meeting, everything Elena had feared came to pass. The transmission was intercepted. Their words of love and hope twisted into evidence of treason and collaboration as security forces from both sides closed in on them. Elena looked into Kethfer's eyes and saw the same desperate thought she was. Having that love, real love, was worth any price. Even if it meant sacrificing everything else they had ever known, love. Against all odds, the holding cell aboard the Zarian flagship was nothing like the dungeons Elena had imagined. The walls were smooth and curved, emanating a soft blue light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. She had been here for 3 days, cut off from all contact with the outside world. Not knowing if Kethfer was alive or dead, the door whispered open, and Admiral Dexron entered. Unlike Kethfer's elegant features, Dexron was scarred and weathered, his blue skin marked with the ritual tattoos of the Zarian warrior caste. His eyes held no warmth, only cold calculation. Human, he said, the word dripping with disdain. You have corrupted one of our finest commanders. Elena straightened, meeting his gaze without flinching. I haven't corrupted anyone. Kethfer made his own choices. Kethfer is weak. Dexfront spat. He has forgotten his duty to the Dominion. But you ... you will help us remind him. Before Elena could ask what he meant, guards entered the cell. They hauled her to her feet and dragged her through the ship's corridors to a vast chamber filled with viewing screens. On the largest screen, Elena saw Kethvar chained to a metal platform, his elegant uniform torn and stained with blue blood. Kethvar. Elena cried out, struggling against her restraints. His head lifted at the sound of her voice, and their eyes met across the impossible distance. Even through the screen, Elena could see the pain in his expression, not physical pain, but the deeper agony of a soul being torn apart. You see, Commander Torres, Dexron said softly, Admiral Kethver will be executed for treason. Unless, of course, you provide us with complete intelligence about your colony's defenses, your military capabilities, and the location of your reinforcement fleets. Elena's mind raced. If she gave them the information, New Haven would fall within hours. 50,000 innocent people would die or be enslaved. But if she refused, Kethver would die, and she would have to live with the knowledge that she could have saved him. Double quotes, Elena began, then stopped. On the screen, Kethver was shaking his head, his lips forming words she couldn't hear but understood perfectly. Don't do it. I won't betray my people, Elena said firmly. Dexron's expression didn't change. Very well. Then you will watch him die, knowing that you could have prevented it. The screen went dark, and Elena screamed Kethver's name until her voice broke. But the guards dragged her away, back to her cell, where she collapsed on the smooth floor and wept for the first time since her capture. Hours passed in darkness. Elena had given up hope when the wall of her cell suddenly shimmered and dissolved. A figure stepped through the opening, not Kethvar, but a young Zarian female with intricate silver markings on her skin. Quickly, the female whispered urgently, We do not have much time. Who are you? Elena asked, scrambling to her feet. Zaraline, Kethvar's science officer. I am part of the Harmony movement. Elena stared at her blankly. The what? Later. We must go now. They moved through the ship like ghosts, Zaralin leading Elena through maintenance corridors and hidden passages. The Zirian's small device seemed to make them invisible to the ship's sensors, but Elena could feel her pounding with every step. Where are we going? Elena whispered. To free Kethver, Zaralin replied, and then we must reach the others. What others? The Harmony movement, Zaralin explained as they climbed through a narrow access tube. Zirians and humans who believe there must be a better way than endless conquest. Your relationship with Kethvar has inspired many, Elena Torres. More than you know. Elena's mind reeled. There are others like us. Not exactly like you. Zaralin smiled sadly. Few have found the deep connection you and Kethvar share. But many have grown tired of war, tired of the cycle of violence and domination. They have been waiting for a symbol, a sign that peace is possible. They reached the detention level where Kethvar was being held. Unlike Elena's comfortable cell, this was clearly a torture chamber. Kethvar hung from energy restraints, his blue skin pale and marked with burns. But his eyes were alert, and when he saw Elena, they filled with a mixture of relief and desperation. Elena? He whispered as Zarlin deactivated the restraints. You should not have come. I wasn't going to leave you, Elena said, catching him as he fell. His body was warm against hers, and she could feel his heart beating rapidly. This is foolish, Kethver protested, even as he leaned into her embrace. If we are caught... We won't be, Zarlin said firmly. The Harmony movement has people throughout both fleets. We have been planning this for weeks. Elena helped Kethver to his feet, noting how he winced with each movement. How badly are you hurt? I will survive, he said. But Elena could see the pain in his eyes. What matters now is getting you to safety. Getting us to safety. Elena corrected. We're in this together. Kethfer stopped walking and turned to face her. Even injured and exhausted, he was beautiful, his alien features noble and proud. Elena, you must understand. If we do this, if we truly join the Harmony movement, there will be no going back. We will be enemies to both our peoples. We already are, Elena said softly. The moment we fell in love, we became traitors to the idea that our species must be enemies. Kethfer's hand found hers, his fingers intertwining with her smaller human ones. I love you, Elena Torres. I have loved you since that first day in the forest. I love you too, Elena replied, her heart swelling with emotion. And I choose you. I choose us. They made it to the ship's hangar, where a small group of both humans and Xerians waited. Elena was amazed to see humans she recognized colonists from New Haven who had somehow made it aboard the alien ship. Among them was Dr. Sarah Chen, the colony's chief medical officer, and Captain James Rodriguez, who had been leading the civilian evacuation. Elena, Sarah rushed forward, embracing her friend. We thought you were dead. How did you all get here? Elena asked, looking around at the mixed group. The Harmony movement has been active on both sides, Captain Rodriguez explained. When we learned about your situation, we knew we had to act. There are more of us than you might think, humans and Xerians who believe in cooperation rather than conquest. Zarolin was working frantically at a control panel. The escape pods are ready, she announced, but we must move quickly. Dekshan will discover our absence soon. As they prepared to leave, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and the sound of running feet echoed through the corridors. Too late, Kethfer said grimly. They know we have escaped. Elena looked around at the assembled group, humans and Xerians working together, risking everything for the chance at peace. Then we fight, she said firmly. Together. The battle that followed was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. The Harmony movement had spent months preparing, placing their people in key positions throughout both fleets. As Elena, Kethfer's group fought their way to the escape pods, similar uprisings began on ships throughout the system. Elena found herself fighting alongside Xerian warriors, their elegant movements complementing human tactics in ways that surprised everyone. Kethfer, despite his injuries, moved with deadly grace, his alien weapon cutting through their enemies while Elena covered him with her pulse rifle. This is impossible, breathed one of the human colonists as they watched a Xerian soldier pull a wounded human to safety. They're actually helping us. Love makes anything possible, Elena said, her eyes meeting Kethfer Eris across the battlefield. They reached the escape pods just as Ekfer's forces closed in. The Admiral himself appeared at the head of a squad of elite warriors, his scarred, face twisted with rage. Traitors, he roared. You will all die for this betrayal. The only betrayal is your refusal to see that we are stronger together than apart, Kethfer replied, stepping forward to shield Elena with his body. The final battle was fierce and brutal. Elena watched in horror as friends fell on both sides, their blood mixing on the metal deck. But slowly, gradually, the tide turned. The Harmony movement's careful planning paid off as systems throughout the ship began failing. Sabotaged by their hidden allies. In the end, it was Kethfer who faced Dexter in single combat. The two Xerians fought with ancient weapons, their movements so fast Elena could barely follow them. But Kethfer was wounded, weakened by his captivity. And Nextran was a seasoned warrior. When Nextra's blade pierced Kethfer's chest, Elena's scream of rage and grief echoed through the entire chamber. Without thinking, she charged forward, her human weapon cutting down the Admiral before he could deliver the killing blow. Kethfer. Elena dropped to her knees beside him, her hands pressing against the wound in his chest. Blue blood seeped between her fingers, and she could see the life fading from his eyes. Elena, he whispered, his hand reaching up to touch her face. I wish we had more time. Don't talk like that, Elena said fiercely, tears streaming down her face. You're going to be fine. Sarah, help him. Dr. Chun rushed over, her medical scanner already in her hands. I'm sorry, Elena, she said softly. The wound is too severe. Even with our combined medical knowledge, no, Elena said firmly. No, there has to be something. Kethver's fingers tightened on her hand. Elena, listen to me. The harmony movement will continue. You must lead them. Show both our peoples that love is stronger than hate. I can't do it without you, Elena whispered. Yes, you can, Kethver said, his voice growing weaker. You're the strongest person I have ever known. Human or Zarian, it does not matter. You have the strength to change everything. Elena pressed her lips to his, tasting salt from her own tears. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. And I love you, he replied, his eyes closing. Forever. Elena held him as the life left his body, her grief so profound it felt like her own heart had stopped beating. Around them the sounds of battle faded as both sides realized what had happened. The great Kethver was dead, and the human woman who loved him was cradling his body like a mother with a child. In that moment, something changed. The Zarian soldiers who had been fighting against the Harmony movement began lowering their weapons. The humans who had been ready to fight to the death stood down. In the presence of such pure grief, such absolute love, the artificial barriers between species seemed to crumble. He died for peace, Elena said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. He died believing that we could be better than our fears, stronger than our hatred. She looked up at the assembled crowd, humans and Zarians alike. Don't let his death be meaningless. The weeks that followed were chaos. The Harmony movement, now led by Elena and Zarolin working together, spread throughout both fleets. Ships that had been prepared for battle instead became forums for discussion. Humans and Zarians who had never spoken to each other began sharing cultures, comparing cultures, finding common ground. Elena threw herself into the work, channeling her grief into determination. She learned to speak Zarian, studied their art and philosophy, and taught them about human dreams and aspirations. Slowly, painfully, bridges began to form between the two species. The final confrontation came when both Earth and Zarian Prime sent new fleets to deal with the rebellion. Elena found herself commanding a mixed force of humans and Zarians, preparing to face the combined might of both empires. But when the moment came, when the assembled fleets faced each other across the void, something unexpected happened. Elena broadcast a message to all ships, human and Zarian alike. She told them about Kethver, about his courage and sacrifice. She spoke of the love that had brought them together, and the hope that had sustained them through the darkest times. He wished we could marry, Elena said, her voice carrying across space to every ship in both fleets. He wished our peoples were not enemies. He died trying to make that wish come true. Now it's up to us to finish what he started. The response was overwhelming. Ships from both fleets began switching sides, their crews declaring for the Harmony movement. Within hours, the rebellion had become a revolution. The peace that followed was not perfect. There were still those on both sides who opposed the Union, who clung to old hatreds and fears. But the foundation had been laid, and it was built on something stronger than conquest or fear. It was built on love. Elena never married, never found another love like what she had shared with Kethver. But she did find purpose. She became the first human ambassador to Zarian Prime, and later the first human to serve on the Galactic Council that governed both species. On quiet evenings, when her work was done and the stars were bright, Elena would visit the memorial garden that had been built in Kethver's honor. The garden was a fusion of human and Zarian traditions, with flowers from both worlds growing. Side by side, at its center stood a statue of two figures, one human, one Zarian reaching toward each other across the void. The inscription at the base was simple: "Love conquers all." Elena would sit beside the statue and remember those stolen moments in the forest, the touch of alien skin against her own, the whispered words of love that had changed the galaxy. And sometimes, when the wind was just right, she could almost hear Kethra's voice saying the words that had started it all. I wish we could marry, human. So do I. Elena would whisper back to the stars. So do I. Their love story became legend, passed down through generations of both species. Children grew up learning about the human woman and the Desirian admiral who chose love over war, who proved that understanding was stronger than hatred. And in the end, perhaps that was the greatest victory of all. Not just the peace between their peoples, but the hope that love, true love, could overcome any obstacle, bridge any divide, and create something beautiful from the ashes of conflict. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, but none were more wonderful than the simple truth that love, in all its forms, was the most powerful force in the universe. Elena Torres and Kethver had proven that, and their legacy would endure for all time.